the 2003 Ford Excursion diesel with the tricolor amber tail turn light conversion. Originally, there's just a bulb in this center section right here. The upper portion isn't used at all, and then just obviously the reverse light down at the bottom. And the older tail lights on the E250s, E350s, the van Econolines, the upper portion you can see was the amber. So in later years, all they did was just change that lens area to red. So the reason I do this mod is with having just the rear red, I think adding that yellow turn has more visibility, separate yellow turn signals. The brake light and tail light is activated independently on its own, as well as the turn signal can be blinking yellow at the same time your brake lights are on, instead of just stopping and having that red brake light turn on and off as the signal. So that's how I prefer it. One of the first things you'll need is you'll actually need to buy that 92 to 94 Ford Econoline tail light, that tricolor, amber or yellow for the turn, and then the red for the tail and brake. When it converted the turns without a brake signal to the rear, it also affected the trailer. And so since I tow, I couldn't have that. One of the options was to buy a converter. So what I got was a CURT taillight converter. It's part number 56196, and what it does is it converts a tail stop turn signal. It's a 2-wire to 3-wire taillight converter. The input over here on this side, you have your right side tail stop turn, you have the white as your ground, and then your yellow is your left side stop and turn. So those are the inputs that you're going to hook up to it, and then what you get out of it is just a dedicated right turn, a dedicated stop, and a dedicated left turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook this up into the rear wiring harness, and then I'll make my feeds to each side. And so basically rewiring the back harness of the Excursion, but it'll still allow the factory trailer plug to have the tail stop turn. This is what I'm going to be doing, going from my single converted tail lights to my tri, but doing all the wiring back at the rear of the vehicle. So let's get to it. So I disconnected the wiring harness from here, and that basically feeds, it comes in T's and feeds the left side, and then it feeds the right side, but then also on the right side it comes up and it feeds this plug. This plug then goes inside and it feeds the backup sensors module that's in the back. So 6 of these wires that come out of here are for the backup sensor module. So I've separated the loom from the wires so we can see these 6 down here are the ones that come from this plug and feed the harness that goes to the backup sensors in the bumper. So we're not going to mess with any of those. These other wires right here that come through, the tan one tees off, these are for your license plate lights. So right down here, and license plate lights. So you're going to have 2 of your brown for the lights on, the running lights, and then 2 black for the grounds for that system. But the one brown tees off from that connector right here. Brown feeds the running lights in this plug. So now we have these other wires. So the black one here is going to feed the ground to our tail stop turn harness. Our black pink is going to feed our reverse lights. Our orange is going to feed the right tail stop turn, and our green orange tracer is going to feed our left side. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this module and we're going to tie into these lines, cut these here so the feed will come from here, go into the module, and then from the module it's going to then feed back out. The thing that I'm going to lose from these wires is my brake light still. That's where we had before tied it into the third brake light. So this wire will actually feed into, I'm going to repin this plug, so I'm going to actually use a factory pin to add a circuit into this. So I'll then run my brake light from the new module stop into here, and then from that I'm going to need to go into my harness. So this will be the feed with the new brake, and so I'll need to run a new brake line from this feed up, tee it, and go out. So you can see I've already fed on this one side. I've fed a white wire, which will be my brake, all the way through the harness and out, and that's what I'm going to tie into this harness over here. I'll need to put a T in this line to bring it down to the plug, and then also feed that through up over here. Got the rear wiring done. Let me show you what we've done. So here I've got the wiring coming from the front to the rear. I've separated out and connected the left side, the right side, and the ground. So those have now fed, which were the tail stop turn. So we've got the right side stop and turn, we've got the ground, and the left side stop and turn tied in. And then now our regular output of just a turn for the right, yellow is just turn for the left, and then red is the brake. So that then now feeds down to this. So what I did is I tied into this plug with the outputs, and so now the harness that would normally run to the bulbs just feeds just the turn signal. What I added was the red right here. I've also added a pin to the connector for just the stop, so I don't need to go up to the third brake light. And now that comes out. This is just the brake, and I added that wire up to the harness, and then I've fed it through on both sides. And you can see the feed comes out and then is attached. It's just temporary right now. I still have to attach my weather pack connectors for my other lighting that I'm going to do. Same thing, the white wire feeds the brake stop. So that portion's done. So here's the wiring for the harnesses. This is our original reverse light, so we don't mess with that at all. This was the original brake, tail, and turn. So we had a ground, we had a brown running light, and we had an orange turn brake. So what we did is we tapped into the black ground to add another feed to the ground of our turn signal. The turn signal wire, the orange one, we cut and then tapped that into the turn of the new plug. So now we've got the turn signal plug completely wired. Our orange original turn signal feed and spliced ground go to the turn signal. So now for the brake, we don't need to mess with the ground other than adding the tap for the turn. The brown is for the running light, the tail light, so we don't mess with that at all. And then for the orange, we now need to tap that into the white wire feeds the brake. So that'll bring you a brake light to this outlet. So that is the wiring that you need to do for the tricolor rear. So fairly simple. All right, so this is all put back together. I got the hazards on just so you can see each side working. And again, this is going to be the tricolor mod for the amber turn signals on the Excursion. One thing to note is if you don't want to replace the whole tricolor, the original housing has that red. The whole upper is red with only the tail stop in the middle and then the reverse in the bottom. If you want, you can still utilize that same light housing. You would just have to take your reverse socket and change that to a switchback. So you would have to use a bulb that is white and then changes to yellow on turn signal and just rewire for just that socket there. So you could take the same socket that fixed the tail stop turn and then put one in the reverse housing, and then just instead of running the wires up to this new one here, you would run it to that 3-wire socket in the bottom,
And when you have reverse on, the white would be on, and when you have your turn signal on, that switchback bulb would then light up yellow. And it's an LED, you can't get that in a halogen. So you can get a switchback LED bulb, and that way you can still get that amber turn without having to change the whole housing. I just happen to like the whole yellow, red, white housing.